had a few solutions that we talked about. One was about education, which is a lot of what we've talked about today, utilising external resources. We talked about creative education as well, so doing productions, people like from the theatre, people from the theatre or local theatre groups, and playback theatre is another one that we talked about as well. We've talked about incorporating programs like the Resilience Project and Bully Stoppers and utilising them from the mental health menu. Otherwise, we may be able, if they're not on the menu, we may be able to use funding. But of course, as we've discussed today, funding can also be an issue as well in terms of whether schools have got enough to do that. We did start the conversation by making sure that there was a shared understanding of the definition of bullying as well, because there is often some confusion around that. And we might have, like I know from my experience in schools, I've had a lot of parents will come to me or to leaders and they'll sort of say, I'm bullying my child out because they're being bullied. And it might have only been a one-off occurrence, or it might just be something that we didn't even know about. And so there's been no opportunity for us to actually address it and talk about it. One of the other things was a bottom-up approach. So talking from the level of the students as well, get the students involved in it, get them involved in the education to other students, like the SRC group, Student Representative Council, we can get them involved. And they can actually be providing the education, because students will listen to other students. Will they listen to their teachers all the time and wellbeing people all the time? Probably not. Do they listen to their parents all the time? Probably not. So, but they do listen to their peers, because they're the ones that they connect with the most, and they're the ones that they sort of think, well, my friend's saying it, then it must be true. We also talked a little bit about policy reviews and potentially developing a policy brief in terms of some of the gaps within the policy that are missing and how we can sort of change things a little bit in that space. And the other thing we talked about was bystander training and getting, like I mentioned that we could potentially look at all schools getting one key person trained up as a facilitator of bystander training, and that person would then be able to deliver across throughout the whole school. But that includes training for parents as well, like the whole school community, and making it a whole school approach.
One thing we talked about was, and this again comes back to resourcing everything down here, is having, if there are some students that are problematic, when we're talking specifically about primary, providing some extra supervision that's just on those students. This is something that has played out at the school my daughter's at, and there's some continued behaviours that were harming other students from a small group, and so they actually have put extra resources in the playground, and they've also just redistributed supervision within the playground as well, which has helped. We also talked about focusing on good behaviour, teaching what is good behaviour, certainly modelling that in schools, but that idea of where focus goes, energy flows. So we're always focusing on, you did this wrong, you did that wrong, and then students sort of, that becomes their identity, and they lean into it. So focusing on the good things that we do want to focus, that we do want to encourage would be really beneficial. Strong partnerships between parents and schools. I can't remember what we were saying around that. And I think I've said that as well, teaching and modelling good behaviour, because we often see, things in class like teachers, perhaps if a student's not there, and this has happened to my son, for me has some issues making negative comments about students in class to the rest of the cohort when they're not there, and obviously that's extremely problematic. So making sure that teachers are really role modelling excellent behaviour and what they would expect from students. Back to relationships, absolutely.
We start off with a conversation about the definition of bullying and some clarity around what that is and what it's not. Kids are mean to each other around that, but that's not bullying. And they're still learning to be people. I mean, if they don't understand it, that's what they're doing, learning to be people. A side issue of mine was around the role models on television and media, who they see getting rewarded greatly for mean and bullying behaviour. A massive problem societally, I think. We need to maybe look at the classifications of TV and what's on at 7 o'clock and 7:30 at night that's really not appropriate for kids who can't distinguish between what's reality and what's fantasy, and what's a game and what's actual real life. And that impacts on their behaviours in schools and their relationships in schools. What else do we talk about? Building strong cultures in schools around some of John's work, and Adam Voigt's in this space, and there are lots of people working in these strong cultures of kindness, but also around raising the level of student agency and student voice, where students have the ability to be able to go, you know what, I'm not putting up with that behaviour, you can't speak to me that way. Or being able to speak to a trusted adult and say, I'm having problems with somebody and I need someone to help me with this. To be able to declare their vulnerability and say, I'm really struggling with this with my friend. I think he's being a bit bullying to me. Can you help me be a better person and a stronger person? Because I need your support to stand up. I think that rounded it all out. Yeah, thanks.